Hi, this is Snoop Dogg, and you're about to see the best sports and entertainment talk show on the internet with your host, Troy Geary, the man who seems to go to every sporting event, and Dave Stevens, born without legs, but won 7 Emmys and played college football and minor league baseball. Throw in Will Stein wherever Will Stein is.
Look at
and
Snoop
you got a heck of a
Dogg.
show. It's the Geary, Stein, and Stevens Show. Faux shizzle.
Well, welcome back to, I'd say, the Christmas edition of the Geary Stein and Stevens Show, because Santa Claus has arrived. He is here. It's our annual tradition of having Mr. Leigh Steinberg join us, the super agent to the stars, the focus of the movie, Jerry McGwire, and such an amazing career, overcoming so much. And now, what are you on for as far as sobriety?
Well, next month, if everything goes well, I'll be 15 years.
Wow. If everything goes well, dude, you're going to be fine. You have just really turned.
I know you don't want to be presumptuous.
Of course. Well, like who's going to win the Super Bowl kind of thing, you know. And I know you have a vested interest in it, so we're not even going to ask your pick for it. So we'll move on. We've talked about that. But Leigh is here, of course. The Leigh Steinberg party is happening this weekend, which has become such a big event. I've watched it become bigger than the old days of the Playboy parties that Hugh Hefner had, only a lot cleaner and a lot more impactful, because what Leigh's event is about, yes, there's stars and fun and food and everything, but you're there for one reason and one reason only.
So we're raising money tomorrow for the National Urban League, and we hope to move a family into the first home they'll ever own. We'll make the down payment. And then we have the humanitarian awards, Dave, which are given to highlight the amazing things that people do in and around pro football. So Gail Benson, the owner of the Saints, will get one. Drew Brees is getting one. We have Sean Payton, the coach of Denver, getting one. Nate Wiggins from the Baltimore Ravens. So it highlights that. And then, of course, we have the Brain Health Summit the hour before. And this just last week, I set up a new charitable foundation, Leigh Steinberg Foundation for brain health and wellness. And the goal is to try and raise awareness and deal with prevention and then cure. And the good news about brain injury, you know, I had a crisis of conscience back in the 80s. I'm representing half the starting quarterbacks, and they keep getting hit in the head, Dave. And we'd go to doctors, neurologists, and ask, how many is too many? What would be the magic number to contemplate retirement? They had no answers. So I started holding concussion conferences. And in the last couple, what we've discovered is there's, through the concept of neuroplasticity, a concussed brain can be healed. And it's RTMS, which is magnets against the brain, and something called neurofeedback. And later on, you're going to have a guest with a group I'm working with, IQ Minds, Katerina Maloney. And they've got a method that takes an impaired brain and brings it back.
I think Jim McMahon, I think, has had some of those treatments that changed him.
Yes.
I know Bernie Kosar has made immediate, like years ago, people thought he was always drunk or had a stroke, and then he's progressed so much. He's walking around. He's like, there are ways to fix it. And I think that's why it's so important for them to listen, for the league to listen, and to figure out that as the players get stronger and faster, the impacts are going to be more and more. And they're trying to design helmets and things like that and change the rules a little bit. But they're just like our veterans of war. They've given so much on the field. And I had so many guys sitting here telling me, I'm forgetting things. Brett Favre has Parkinson's, like all these things that have happened because of the traumatic brain injuries.
Yes. And so here's the way I look at it. We know that in football, because it's a traffic accident on every play, that people are going to have problems with their hip and knee. And when they turn 40, they'll have aches and pains when they lean over to pick up their child. It's much more consequential that you can't identify that child. And that's what concussion and collision sports create, which is a situation where the brain just goes on a spiral. But now we're trying to reverse that. So at the party, we do that. And then we're, as I said, raising our charity. Last year was the homeless, and this year is National Urban League.
I got a couple questions. First, 38 years your party. You know, when you started this 38 years ago, did you think this is where we'd be 38 years later? The bigger, the better. The charities, all the help that you and give back to these communities that are in the Super Bowls and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. In 1985, the first one was at my house in Berkeley. And I was looking for an antidote to the noisy, crowded, dark, boozy party where people could actually meet, network, and discover some things. So that one was at my house in Berkeley, and a bunch of sports writers were at it. The next morning I wake up, and they haven't left. They're sleeping on couches. They're passed out. And so, no, it had no promise for what it's become today.
You could have started the Leigh Steinberg breakfast party or something, right?
Exactly. It's so we started that. We're still doing agent academies. We're having one in March in Newport Beach to train the next generation of sports leaders and to try and have ethical, principled people. So we teach them how to negotiate, how to, and half of them play general managers and half of them play player agents. We teach them how to negotiate, recruit, brand, market, and all those things.
Leigh, I got to ask, because it's a party atmosphere. There's a lot of recovering addicts that could not be in that situation, that could not be in that realm. And I know you don't, but how tough is that to walk around and everyone's got their drinks and everyone's just doing their thing? I mean, how do you battle that every day?
Because those cravings, which seem impossible to get rid of when you're struggling with alcohol, go away. And so all of a sudden, it's all internal. If I have the right spiritual mindset, it just doesn't matter if you push a drink in my face. I'm not attracted to it. If I don't and forget somehow, and if there was no alcohol anywhere, you'd find it. So
I want to ask your thoughts on the Guardian cap. What are your thoughts on that? Is there scientific evidence or numbers yet that it's helping? And any other advancements do you think the NFL can do to help with concussions besides maybe helmets?
So the first most important thing is to not have young kids play tackle football too early, because when they suffer a concussion, it takes 3 times longer to recover, and the brain can actually be altered and when they're young. The second is blocking and tackling with the head, which we do. There are now conferences like the Ivy League that don't have any hitting during training camp or the regular season. All they do is save them for the game. The Guardian cap, Safer, Light are all advancements in helmetry. They won't stop concussions, but the good news was the rate of concussions were down this year from the past. And I think it's a combination of, and the concussion protocol has been helpful. And I think it's a combination of different factors.
And we talk about all the changes in the game. What are your thoughts on the NIL? I mean, would that have made your life as an agent different, or is it just so tough because now there's all these misrepresented high schoolers and things that it just seems like it's a feeding frenzy, just ripe for a scandal?
So 3 monumental changes all occurred, and it's the law of unintended consequences. No one thought out what the effect of gambling would be on sports. No one thought out what conference realignment would mean to traditional rivalries. And no one ever conceptualized that NIL would lead to recruiting wars and free agency for high school players who play off one school against another. So the collectives of wealthy business alums who contribute to these payments that are made it's Star Wars, and it happens again at the transfer portal. So it's very destructive to collegiate sports. And athletes would have been happy with $5,000 more. All they had to do was make a minor adjustment. And if you gave an athlete from a disadvantaged home enough money that he could have access to a car and a nicer place, they'd have been happy. And instead, we have $15 million coming into a young athlete. So yes, it changes my business because I'm not set up to deal with a 15-year-old who wants to be marketed.
Do you think NCAA should have a salary cap of some sort so there's not these schools competing against each other and everybody's on the same playing field?
I think the NCAA is going away because I think that the 4 top conferences are elevating themselves because they get all the good players under the system, and they're going to do their own media negotiations eventually, and then they won't need an NCAA.
That's just sad because of all the conferences you're used to following them now. It's just
have and have nots, and that's what NIL has opened up.
Well, what's going to happen when a wealthy benefactor, like we've seen, pretty much handpick schools for that success, and then those younger, other colleges, there's going to be just doormats.
It's have and have nots, and it echoes the same income inequality that we have in the rest of the society, and they're going to have problems, and it's going to have effects on women's sports, on non-revenue producing sports. And I just see it in the same way that gambling, all it will take is one athlete to get in financial problems, like we saw with Shohei's interpreter, and give inside information or shave performance, and all of a sudden people will look at sports after a scandal like that and say, this is wrestling. It's fixed. And then all of a sudden you lose professional and collegiate sports.
Well, it really seems, it's just one of those things where it's just ripe for scandal. It's just ripe for an ASU gambling or something. Because again, when you get to these kids, you're going to say, hey, would you like to make even more?
Yes. And we had a player kicked out of the NBA because there's this concept called prop bets where you bet the over-under on all these individual things. And he told the gambler he was coming out of a game. And so that altered the over-under because the gambler knew it, but no one else did, and made a fortune.
Unbelievable. And don't take this the wrong way because you are absolutely the antithesis of the opposite, but your job title and what you do, people always think of them as slimy and they're not looking out for the best interests and blah, blah, blah. You have started at a young age. It started with the Warren Moon of making sure these athletes give back, get involved with the community. And I don't think that these guys that either not going to your academy or the Rosen houses out there are doing it totally different. So how do you not go to the dark side?
By carefully profiling prospective clients and looking. When I say to someone, will you be excited about retracing your roots, going back to the high school community where you can set up a scholarship fund or work with a church or Boys and Girls Club. It's a collegiate institution. Go back and fund something that does a similar thing. And at the pro level, set up a charitable foundation with the leading business figures, political figures, and community leaders and do what Warwick Dunn did, which is move the 200 single parents and their families in the first home they'll ever own, or what Mahomes does with his 15 in the Mahomes.
We got a couple of questions before you go. So what is that initial conversation like with Patrick when you guys met and you're starting to, and this kid might be special, but what do you guys talk about? What are you looking for his career, for his best interests, and then his future after football?
So the first thing to know is that you're probably talking to his parents first. So we met the parents in Grapevine, and his father was an ex-baseball player, so he's somewhat familiar. And you go through a screening process, and They want to know about your background. So I've done 64 first-round draft picks and the first pick in the draft 8 times. They want, and then what I try to do is ask them, can you rate values that are important to you? Short-term economic gain, long-term economic security, the ability, family, geographical location, being a starter. Tell me what is in your heart. What will fulfill you? So you're trying to understand who uniquely that person is. And then you lay out a path to the draft. Here's where you'll train. Here's how you'll deal with each of these events. And you walk them through the draft. And then you talk about marketing. You talk about role modeling. You talk about second career. Hopefully, at the very beginning, what other talents or skills do you have? So it's a holistic approach, and certain athletes respond to it and their families, and certain don't, and he did.
Well, it's a wonderful, wonderful week when Leigh is here. We get to talk about so many different things, and thank you again. We got the party tomorrow. Location is
At the Jazz Museum. So we're in New Orleans, home of jazz. So we're at the Jazz Museum. And
you always pick the fun ones. I have to say my personal favorite was probably Arizona when we were at the baseball stadium and just walking around and all that. But so many stars coming out, Breeze and Brett Favre, I think is supposed to come.
Yes. So I mean, I can't even name them. There'll be people from music, people from motion pictures, people from television, all these different worlds coalescing. And at the end of the day, we'll do some good.
You're always doing good, my brother. So continue to show them the money. Oh, Troy, it's always fun to have him, man. It's just it's so great to have. He's so humble and he's such a good guy. And I'm even proud of you for the sobriety. I mean, it's just what you've gone through. I was at ESPN. We did the stories with him, and it's just like, again, we look at as agents as these bad guys, and they're out for themselves. They don't care about the athletes. Total opposite here, and I think you wear your heart on your sleeve, and I think people sometimes take advantage of you because you're such a good guy, but you're still doing so good.
I have tough people around me.
And great kids. Your kids are amazing, Jonathan, and your daughters and everybody.
John did a show on disability.
Yeah, they're not doing it anymore, I guess, right?
I don't know. I ran into his co-host here.
Tantino, yeah.
And but anyway, this is a great network. It's a great concept. It's take the stigma away from people that are born with problems that they didn't create, and focus on what they can do, not what's missing.
And we try to teach empathy instead of sympathy, and I try to take the dis out of disability. So
there you go. That's a pretty good slogan.
All right, he's going to be everywhere. Every time you see him, he's either hugging Warren Moon or somebody that has been in his life. So, Leigh, thank you for taking some time out. Troy.
Thank you, Leigh. Appreciate it. Looking forward to your party tomorrow.
That's Leigh Steinberg, and we'll see him this Saturday. And Troy had a chance yesterday to catch up with all of the stars from Fox. Had a chance to talk to them a little bit. So let's play a little of that sound, and we'll be back just a second after you are watching Gary Stein.
Hey, Dean, do you expect any changes or tweaks to the kickoff?
Yeah, I do. Well, I think they just released the injury data, and it was positive, right? Injuries, concussions were down. Soft tissue injuries were down on the kickoff. So I think now the league wanted to really get a sense for the injuries, and now I think you're going to see some tweaks to maybe get even more returns, because it was like 33% of all kicks returned. So maybe do they move the kick spot back 5 yards? Do they move the touchback up to the 35? If you just kick it through the end zone to kind of incentivize teams to not put it through the end zone. So I do think we're going to see some tweaks. But that kickoff, the dynamic kickoff, I think is here to stay. Thank you.
Hey, Peter, being a supporter of Big Slick, just talk about that weekend, those people back in Kansas City that makes when you come back special.
It's my favorite event. It is. Love Kansas City. They've taken me in as one of their own. It's actually funny how it all came about. I met Paul Rudd at the Super Bowl in Atlanta when it was Rams versus Patriots, not a Chiefs Super Bowl. And he says, I watch Good Morning Football. You've been early on Mahomes. You've been early on the Chiefs. And that market has taken me in such a way. And now, Big Slick, what we do for that Children's Mercy Hospital is truly incredible. And I tell my wife, it's therapeutic for me too. It's something that you can finally see, like your hard work, what you can give back. And last year we, as a group, donated Pro Bowl tickets and those signed jerseys from Mahomes and Kelsey that went for $250,000 to charity. $250,000 to Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City. Unbelievable, and it's truly my favorite weekend of the year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Kurt, you being a supporter, or me being a supporter, and you being an alumnus of Big Slick, can you talk about that weekend and how much fun and experience that was?
It is by far the best charity event that I'm ever a part of. And I've been fortunate enough to be invited back multiple times. But it's not only the people that come there, and obviously some of the biggest names in Hollywood come to Kansas City. It's the fact that it supports, the Children's Hospital and the wing it's been able to build, and you can actually see the tangible evidence of what those weekends put together and the millions of dollars that it raises. It's always hot as hell in Kansas City at that time, but that place knows how to do it.
All right, the boys hard at work here inside of the convention center doing their thing, and they're out. We're going to power down a little bit. You never know who's going to be here next. Kyle Turley had to postpone. He had a late night out there, so we'll have him in a little bit. We'll have a couple of the concussion experts coming on, and I think we've got, let's check out our list. Lorenzo Neal coming up at 11. And young Dylan at 2:15. So we got a lot of fun. Stick with us. You're watching Geary, Stein, and Stevens. Don't go away. We'll pay some bills, and we'll see you back in just a few minutes. Take care.
Serendipity Yacht Cruises and Events wants you to come party with us. We're bringing the fun to the Houston Bay Area. Stay tuned for all of our incredible events throughout the year, featuring amazing food and drinks, live entertainment, special guests, and so much more. Fun, new, different. Serendipity Yacht Cruises and Events is where you want to be. So come party with us. It's more than a yacht. It's serendipity.
Introducing the world's first temporary airbrush tattoo kiosk, iTattoo, bringing wearable, shareable temporary body art to live events. iTattoo stands for Interactive Temporary Airbrush Tattoo Unit. The team is raising additional capital for this incredible iTattoo concept, putting ink on skin at scale. I'll say it again, folks, ink on skin at scale. This will be the coolest addition to any event, and imagine the reactions when you add body art to the mix. Cool kiosks for a large venue or event. And it's super sponsorable. If you or anyone is interested in talking about the cap raise or the unit itself, please reach out to Nathan or Chris at itattoo.life.
Hi, my name is Shaquille Duggar, and I'm